Hi guys, this is what we had last time. This is the Canon game using FXGL, and well, it's not a game per se. It's kind of this application that we did in the last video. So the idea is to get those little squares into those kind of gates basket kind of thing between the two red rectangles. And today we're going to do a little bit more on that. I'll try to use a variety of FXGL features just to show you how to use, or at least some of them, so that you can use them in your own games. The first thing I'm going to do is to slightly modify our physics properties. I'm going to create a fixture definition. And we'll change the density to, let's say, 0.005. And we'll also need to set fixture definition to the bullet. So this will basically allow us to run, or rather shoot these things so that they will start rotating. And they will, yeah, as you can see, it kind of falls off that cliff kind of thing. And before it would just stay there because of zero density. So setting a density allows those objects to be more real objects like, especially when they collide and stuff. Yeah, so the simulation is slightly better using density for certain things if you want them to rotate and do things like that. If not, so say it's a character like player and you don't want him to rotate during collisions, then just don't do that. What else? We could replace that, I think. Yeah, because this checks the whole thing every time on update, and what we really need is for it to check only when it collides with the bottom line or bottom rectangle. And we could do this by just creating a new entity, I think, because it's a part. It's going to be part of the basket anyway, so we can do that. Normal entity should do. I'm going to call it bottom line. Type basket. Set position. This is going to be the position between the two red rectangles. So that's 500, and application get height. Yeah, it should be all right. Scene view, new rectangle, 105 color transparent, because we don't really want the line to be seen, and actually we won't even see it anyway, because it'll start drawing from get height, which is outside of the screen. We also need to make sure to set collision, set collidable to true, and finally add it to the list of entities of the game world. Now we also need to make bullet collidable. Collidable here means that we can do collision detection on them, not the fact that it can collide with other objects, because being a physics entity, it will collide with other physics entities just by default and participate in the simulation. And in physics manager, get physics manager. This is how you can obtain an instance of physics manager. We need to add a new collision handler between what do we need? We need collision begin, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. Between the types bullet and type basket. Collision begin entity A. The order of entities that will be passed is exactly the same as that. The order of types that you declared. So it's going to be this way around. On collision begin, we no longer need to do that check. I'm just going to comment this out for now. Bullet. So yeah, score set score get plus 1000. And just before that, we're going to remove bullet from the screen, remove from world. Removing an entity from world will fire callback to the scene, and the scene will remove it from the game scene. So scene manager will remove it from the game scene. So you can just call this method. All right, that should do it, I think. Yeah, so we're going to shoot this, our new object is somewhere there, I think. Although it's not colliding for some reason. Alright, let's see. Collision handler between bullet and basket. That thing is bullet. We set collidable to true. The object is also basket. That should work. Maybe we should put it slightly above, like 5. 400. Right, I think I used all 100 for the width, which should be 200. Yeah, we'll leave it just like that. So it's going to be starting at 500 and going to 700. Yeah, so the width is actually 200. That was my mistake. Let's see how that works. Yeah, I can never get the angle right. All right, there we go. Yeah, so when they collide with the bottom, so we basically placed an invisible object right there, which is supposed to be colliding with this stuff on touch. Yeah, so because I'm using FXGL's code injection as opposed to JBox physics engine, because the object that we define there is a normal entity, and those blue objects are physics entities. So if you want to have physics entities collide with normal entities, it will use just bounding box, axis aligned bounding box collision detection, which is not perfect. As you can see, when it's falling on one of the corners, the collision doesn't fire, and it only fires when the collision line is kind of axis aligned. What we could have done was replace that object that we have at the bottom with a physics entity. physics entity. By default, it's going to be static. Transparent is fine. Cladable is true, so ideally this should just work as it is now. And it should now register collisions even if a collision happens. Yeah, there you go. As you can see, the collision is now being registered even if the blue object falls on just one of the corners and not axis aligned. So yeah, essentially do whatever you think is best for your game. Physics Engine's collision detection will be an extra load to your CPU, as opposed to FXGL's own collision detection, which is based on simply checking the boundaries of a box, which is not as heavy in terms of workload for the CPU. Also, the other thing I noticed, because we're shooting from the position of the cannon, which is by default top left corner, so we no longer need this. We can use, because we know the width of our cannon, we can use the right side to set the position of the bullet. And this is where we, so this is where we set the position of the bullet. Get position, add the width of our cannon, which is 70, and 0 in Y. So essentially we get a point and add a vector to that point to obtain another point, which gives us the right side of our cannon, or of that rectangle, round rectangle. So as you can see now, the thing or the bullets are being fired from the right side rather than from the left side. We can also set a timer for those objects to disappear at some point, because we don't want them lying around for the whole duration of the game. When we create an entity, we can set expire time, which takes a JavaFX duration, which kind of has really cool semantics, so you can just type duration and one of these static methods to give you an instance of duration. So seconds, hours, minutes, we want seconds, and we do 4 seconds. So ideally, if after 4 seconds this entity is still within the world, so is part of the world, then it should be destroyed or removed from the world. And let's just observe. Yeah, as you can see, they're being destroyed after 4 seconds. So if it hasn't been destroyed by that, they will be destroyed after a few moments. Because you don't want to have many objects in your world unless it is part of the game. Because the more objects you have, the more difficult for collision detection system and for drawing system as well to basically process and compute all of those things. And yeah, obviously you don't want that. What else? Yeah, let me just launch it again, see what else we can do. Well, I suppose we could change the title of the application, and maybe I can show you some menu updates that we've had since the last version. So set, what is it, title Yeah, let's call it Canon app settings, set version 0.2, because it's second video. I would as well call it 0.2 settings. Yeah, as you can see, there are various settings that you can set to the game. Use set height width to change the width and height of the window and the game itself. This is the target width and height, so by default it will try to fit this into your window, but if the screen size is smaller than the one that you can fit in the game, then this will have to change, and FXGL will automatically compute the values that you need. You can change the default font, CSS, you can apply your own CSS if you want to. You can set different menu style. Yeah, let's do, what was it? Have this set menu enabled to true. I've already shown the menu in one of the previous videos, but yeah, so this is essentially the new stuff. You can now save data that you use, so say resolution, we can change the resolution if we want to. Yeah, and this will scale automatically and basically does most of the stuff for you. If you want to do a small game audio, you can manipulate the values. These are affected globally, so if you change music volume, the whole game's music volume will change. Music meaning MP3 files, and sound is WAV files. You can save the data, you can then restore default and stuff like that. Controls, we only have, so the controls are being registered automatically. Again, whenever you add a new action to the input manager, it registers it here in the controls. So you can click on it, change, say, right click, and if we go back to the game, so start new game, left click now does nothing because we've just changed it to being right click, and only right click is now firing those things. You can press escape to go to the menu. You can again change back. So these values are, the ratio is being taken from the one that you specify using width and height. So by default, it should have been 800 by 600, and it used those values and then used the common heights like 720. I used HD heights of 720, 480, and 1080. 1080 is going to be beyond the resolution of my screen, and this is why it's not showing. Back, options, extra. This is the credits. This is the default credits that you get. You can easily modify them by just adding credits into your own menus if you wanted to. You can save the game, which will not do anything because we haven't overridden save data, and load again because we haven't overridden it. It won't do anything. There is a sample called S7 saving, and if you navigate to that on GitHub, you should be able to find how to save and load stuff. So essentially those samples should help you out with basic demos that you will need to go through before doing anything related to any of the features of FXGL. The documentation is there, and I try to be as thorough as possible, but still, it's kind of difficult to read, to just get the stuff just from reading, and this is why these videos take place, so that you could sort of see for yourself how certain things could be done, and hopefully you can build a few nice games with FXGL. and just play around with this, I suppose. Uh, yep, that should cover some basic features and should be it for this video. Feel free to email or comment questions about FXGL if you need. Um, I should be able to answer eventually. And there is a section on frequently asked questions on GitHub, or at least there should be by now, if you need any help with that. And yeah, basically enjoy. Thanks for watching.